Good evening, everyone. This is a taped program of the Gay Liberation Network. I'm Bob Schwartz, and sitting next to me is Ryne Poelker. Tonight, we're going to debate the Bernie Sanders candidacy. The Bernie Sanders for President campaign has been drawing large crowds wherever the Vermont senator appears. And this is a phenomenon that we want to address because it gets to some basic issues, in my opinion, as to what the political enterprise is all about or should be all about. At any rate, Ryne is going to take the field first and talk about why people should support the campaign of Senator Bernie Sanders.
Okay. As Bob stated, Bernie Sanders is an independent, self-identified socialist who's running, traveling across the country. To me, the question is, do you see this as a positive or negative development? Is it better off that he is running, or is it better off that he doesn't run? I think that since we're coming out of a period where socialism has been routinely degraded, insulted, it has a dirty kind of connotation to it. It's constantly demonized, and here you have somebody traveling around the country, dispelling that and countering that demonization and vilification that's existed for so long, and who's running on a fairly progressive platform. Not a perfect candidate, but a very bold, progressive platform on economic issues, class issues. I am an independent. I've campaigned and voted for Green Party candidates. I supported Jill Stein last election, but Jill Stein only got 0.32% of the vote nationally, and she did not reach the level of people that Bernie Sanders is. People are coming out by the thousands, 10,000 people in Denver, 11,000 people in Madison, Wisconsin, and they're coming out protesting what they see as the corporate takeover of the political process, the buying of politicians, the massive economic inequality, and to them, they're coming out to this as a protest. This is their way to protest the economic system, and I think that people who consider themselves on the far left, that we should relate to them, and and we should support this campaign because these are people who are going to be the future of an independent political movement in the United States. If we are to break from the Democratic Party, these are the people that we need to grab and to reach out to.
Well, like Ryne, I am a socialist, and I don't support the Sanders candidacy, unlike Ryne. And there are several reasons why I think this is the wrong way to go. Now, one of the basic problems in the United States is that politics is defined as elections. Whenever you mention politics to people, they think of politicians, they think of elections, voting booths. The Republican debate, which at the time of this taping is upon us, is all in the news. It's the most important, quote, political activity of the day. And I strongly disagree with this definition of politics. What I think is needed is a movement, not an election campaign, but a movement similar to the Black Rights Movement, the labor movement, the LGBT movement, groups of people organizing for their own liberation, taking to the streets, putting pressure on all politicians, Democrats, Republicans alike. This is the way the goods are delivered, so to speak. The politicians, of course, will step in to take credit for it, to codify the gains won in the streets, much as occurred with the recent Supreme Court decision on marriage equality. That gain was actually won in the streets, and then 5 Supreme Court judges, put the stamp of approval on it. Am I glad they did that? Of course, but I give the main credit to people who took action, people like us, who took action for our own liberation. So I differentiate between an election campaign and a movement. Election campaigns, ringing doorbells, preparing flyers, putting up yard signs, making telephone calls. This could be a component of a movement. If a movement decided to run candidates for public office, as has been done by radical parties in the past, the Bolsheviks come to mind. But the campaign is not the same thing as a movement. And what you have in the Sanders phenomenon is a campaign. Yeah, sure, he's drawing huge crowds. People are upset with the direction of public policy in the United States. No question about that. A lot of people are ready for systemic change. But the Wall Street politicians, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, these people are not in support of systemic change. And the Democratic nominee, who Sanders has pledged to support should he lose, Hillary Clinton, is not in support of systemic change. So that's another thing. This campaign of Bernie Sanders is linked to the Democratic Party, and that's the graveyard of many social movements. So that's another caveat that I would put out there.
Well, I agree that movements are the source of social change, and I do see the Sanders campaign as part of a broader movement. He's called for a march on Washington for free college and student debt forgiveness. He's routinely said that you can elect him president, you can vote for him, but things aren't going to change unless we have a mass mobilization, a mass movement. And I very much see him as an agitational figure in American politics. He's putting out the idea of single-payer health care, that we should have a movement around that, of free college, a tax on Wall Street to pay for infrastructure, and full employment jobs bill. He's not co-opting these kinds of things because there aren't mass movements around these things right now, and he's seeing his candidacy as a part of creating those kind of movements. Again, I am not a Democrat, but I see Sanders creating a greater rift and greater disgruntlement in the Democratic Party rather than lessening it. I see him as a very big problem for Hillary Clinton, and I'm sure her campaign sees Bernie Sanders as a very big problem. Right now, the DNC will not schedule debates with Clinton and Sanders supporters are protesting on DNC offices. This does not sound like somebody that's sheepdogging people into the DNC. Barney Frank, friend of Rahm Emanuel and Hillary Clinton, has said that the Democratic Party has no place for Bernie Sanders and his supporters. Chris Matthews on MSNBC is constantly attacking Bernie Sanders, while also defending the businesses that donate to his network. Or I should say the businesses who make money off of his network. So I don't see this as a co-option into the Democratic Party. I see it as thousands of people becoming angry. And I don't think Hillary Clinton's victory is inevitable, but if she does win, people are going to be looking for a progressive. I think lots of people are going to be looking for a progressive plan B, and I, will vote for Jill Stein or the Green Party if Bernie Sanders loses the nomination. But I'm going to participate in his campaign because I do see this as a part of a process of breaking out of the Democratic Party, of creating a split in the Democratic Party.
Well, you may see it that way, Ryne, and a few other people who are backing Sanders may also see it that way. But see, what I think is that an election campaign is really demoralizing to the building of a movement. It takes a lot of energy to organize an effective electoral campaign. I mean, it takes a lot of work. the ringing of doorbells, the robocalls,
Yeah.
and the rest of it. And you and a few other people might be able to go on and continue to build movements around single-payer health care, the anti-war movement, which Saunders' record as far as an anti-war candidate is pretty poor. But I didn't really want to get into the senator's record because I think that's really incidental. I mean, he's running as a Democrat, not independent of the Democrats. I see that as a problem because he's going to continue, as others before him have done, Dennis Kucinich, Jesse Jackson, who was that senator from one of the Carolinas, the guy with the $500 haircut?
John Edwards.
Edwards, yeah. I mean, these people ran as populists, and you use the term sheepdogging, and whether that they were conscious of it or not, that's what they were doing. I mean, yes, I agree with you. There are thousands, maybe millions of people out there who are dissatisfied with the direction that the government U.S. government has taken, and they're eager for the kind of message that Bernie Sanders is putting out there, and the others that I just mentioned. But in the end, and Sanders has said this, he will endorse the nominee, and we expect that to be Hillary Clinton. Now, maybe it'll be Joe Biden. Who knows? I don't think it's going to be Bernie Sanders. I don't see the Wall Street barons and the barons of big oil and the rest of them, the rest of that ilk, backing somebody like Bernie Sanders. So I think we should be about the business of building a movement like the labor movement, the civil rights movement, the movement for LGBT rights, the movement for immigrant rights, and incidentally, Sanders said he's against open borders. Taking a position on immigration rights that I certainly don't support because I'm for open borders. But at any rate, I think our tasks should be about movement building. We have limited energies. We don't have unlimited energies to spend all kinds of time building the campaign and then turning around and building a movement. In many ways, a campaign is antithetical to a movement, and we should be working on the movement.
Well, if you're going to look for perfection and purity in history, you're not going to find what you're looking for. I mean, Eugene Debs, who ran for as a socialist, in the early 20th century, he did a lot of great things. He ran as a socialist, but he was not great on racial issues. Right. Malcolm X was a great revolutionary figure, did a lot for the black movement, but there were times where he wasn't perfect on gender issues. And Martin Luther King, spent the later part of his life as a very outspoken radical and critic of American capitalism and imperialism, but it took him a while to get there, and it took him a while to speak out against the Vietnam War. It took him a process. So you're not going to find a perfect figure who's going to break the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders is not a perfect figure. I do not agree with him on every single issue, such as immigration and certain foreign policy issues. But my thing is, what are the ramifications of his campaign? And I think that he is creating a real crisis in the corporately owned Democratic Party. I think that he is creating more problems for them, not less. They are not relating to his campaign and his supporters in a way that's going to suck them in. I do not think that he is like Jesse Jackson or Dennis Kucinich in the fact that he's bringing out an extremely large outpouring of people. but also he has no intention, as well as the people that are going to his campaign, have no intention of taking over the Democratic Party. This is a unique historical moment. This is a unique historical figure. This is a socialist from a small little state of Vermont, who's a very unique character in American politics, and um, I see him as part of building the movements that you were talking about. Not him, but the people that are going to his campaign, who are politicizing around him, who are calling for a march on Washington for student debt forgiveness and free college, who want to create a movement that taxes Wall Street and goes after Wall Street for what they've gotten away with in this country. Um, these are the people that are going to make a movement, and who are they going? If I don't think his defeat is inevitable. I think that is a problem in the left. Very problematic to say that Hillary Clinton's automatically going to beat this insurgent campaign in the party. I think that if you want to talk about demoralization, I think that creates demoralization to say Hillary Clinton's going to win no matter what. But if she wins, who are these masses of people going to listen to? Are they going to listen to people who did not participate in the campaign with them, who they don't know, or are they going to listen to people that worked side by side with them, and who participated in the organizing work with them? And when those people say, no, we should not vote for Hillary, we should vote for Jill Stein, we should not support a corporate Democrat, I think they're going to listen to those individuals more so than the people who did not participate and who they did not come in contact with.
Well, you've heard it before. I've certainly heard it many, many times from Kucinich, Jackson, the guy with the $500 haircut.
John Edwards.
In the end, you know, we're sorry we lost. Kucinich, Jackson, but look at the Republican. Clinton, Biden, they're the lesser evil. So, we've got to go with the lesser evil. And this is an argument that I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard also, Ryne, many, many times. And I expect that's what Bernie Sanders will say, and a lot of people backing his campaign. Not everybody, but a lot of people will. Now, there's a difference between people like Eugene Victor Debs, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. These people were not politicians. They weren't supporting the Democratic Party. They were in opposition to the Democratic Party. Debs, as you well know, was a labor leader. He had credibility with working people, and he was bad on race. That's certainly true. But he was a different kind of person than Sanders. He wasn't a politician. He was in opposition to the Democratic Party, as was Malcolm X. And, King was sometimes a little wishy-washy on the Democrats. But the fact is he did organize in opposition to the Kennedys, to the Kennedy administration at the time of the March on Washington. They didn't want it. He knew it had to take place, and so he pushed ahead with it. That's what we need. We need people like Debs, Malcolm, Martin Luther King, people who can build a movement. And I just think an electoral campaign is a diversion from that central task, that central political task in the United States. In Europe, organized labor can call an action. Thousands of people pour out into the streets of Paris or Rome or some other city. Here, thousands of people pour out to the voting booths, and nothing changes. If elections changed anything, somebody once quipped, they'd be illegal. So I'm really down on election campaigns. They could play a role as part of a movement. I acknowledge that, but in place of a movement, I think it's poison.
Well, I think for obvious and apparent reasons, we can say Bernie Sanders does not get $500 haircuts like John Edwards.
Doesn't have as much hair, right?
No, yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't really seem to do that. But I okay. Well, I mean, what do you say about people like Harvey Milk or Harold Washington or people who did run in the electoral process, who did see themselves as a part of a broader movement? Would you say that it would have been better that Harvey Milk did not run for office, even though he ran as a Democrat, but he saw himself as part of a movement of around LGBT rights and housing issues and so forth? Or Harold Washington, who saw himself as running part of the black struggle. So the I don't see these things as being counterposed to each other. And to me, if Bernie Sanders does endorse Hillary Clinton, I think I could pull more people out of that by being part of the Bernie Sanders campaign and telling them, no, this is somebody that's not going to support your class interests. It's not somebody that's going to support your economic interests. We need to keep the momentum going. We need to keep this movement going. And I will be out on marching on Washington when they have this student march against high student debt and for free college. And he, I think, has made it very implicit that he believes in building movements and that he believes in the power of protests and the power of grassroots action. I think he's also unique because he's somebody that says what he means. I do think he has integrity. I don't agree with everything he says, but I can at least know that he says what he means, in which you can't say that about John Edwards or Hillary Clinton or whoever else. So I think he has a unique place in the American political system. He comes from a unique place of a socialist movement in Vermont. Sort of when he started getting into electoral politics. So I think this is going to require a different type of thinking that has taken place before. It's not we cannot adapt to the Bernie Sanders phenomenon with orthodoxy and with unchanging ideology. I think we have to look at the conditions and circumstances that are coming out of this campaign.
Well, when Sanders was first elected mayor of Vermont, it's true he ran as a socialist. But since that time, he's moved steadily to the right, and many of his former comrades in the socialist movement in Vermont have disowned him. He's made compromises to the extent where the Democratic Party doesn't even mount candidates against him anymore. It's pretty clear that there was an agreement, and he's moved up the seniority ladder. And should the Democrats regain control of the Senate, I believe he would be the chair of one of the major committees. I mean, you call Bernie an independent socialist, but no socialist worth his salt would support the Israeli terror regime the way Bernie Sanders does. I mean, and he supported U.S. intervention in Yemen, in the Ukraine. He had anti-war protesters arrested in his office in Vermont, and that was when he was elected mayor as a socialist. He had anti-war protesters elected. He's voted for military budgets. It is true on some of these domestic issues that you pointed to. He is raising points that should be addressed, but I would say better addressed by a movement.
Well, like I said, I do not agree with his foreign policy, even though he did vote against the Iraq War. I do not agree with the apartheid conditions in Israel. He is, like I said, not a perfect leftist revolutionary candidate running. to me, I'm more concerned about what he's creating, what what's the ramifications of him running, who are the people gravitating around him, and what are the effects of that kind of mobilization. I don't look at every single voting way he voted the past 30 years he's been in public office. Though I would say that when he was in Vermont as mayor, he did incredible work with worker co-ops, with community land trusts that sought to democratize certain economic institutions. And he still is very supportive of worker co-ops, and I think that is in working class democracy. I think that is something that impresses me about him. But like I said, there's been a lot of socialists in the United States and elsewhere that are not perfect on every single issue, especially with race or foreign policy or whatever. So I'll end on that.
Well, we do need to wrap this up. I want to thank our viewers for watching this taped presentation. We look forward to returning live on the air where we can entertain your phone calls. This has been an informative discussion on the Bernie Sanders campaign, and I want to thank Ryne Poelker for participating, and we'll see you next time.